Welcome to this deep dive. We have a really fascinating stack of sources today, and I want you, the listener, to just picture this scene for a second. It's Friday night, right?
Right, the eve of the 2026 World Cup Group C opener.
Exactly, the eve of the match, and Times Square has been completely taken over. I mean, it is just an absolute sea of yellow and green.
Oh yeah, the footage was wild.
You've got these Brazilian fans who have essentially, invaded New York and New Jersey, and the atmosphere is just electric. You know, there are drums, there are thousands of people dancing.
Just massive block parties everywhere.
Yeah, and the chants echoing off the skyscrapers, they're demanding a goal mill,
Yeah.
right? Like a 1,000th goal.
The confidence leaping out of these reports, it was palpable. I mean, the fans weren't just showing up to support your team. They were arriving for a coronation.
Which, makes the reality of the pitch even more jarring. They weren't just hoping for a win, they were actively expecting the exact.
Right, that legendary 6th World Cup star.
Right. They arrived in the United States with this absolute certainty. But then, the sun comes up, the match kicks off at MetLife Stadium, and the reality was this brutal, grinding 1-1 draw against Morocco.
A very harsh reality check.
And honestly, looking at the data, the tape, and the post-match analysis in our sources, that draw felt like a massive statistical lucky escape for the Salation.
It really was. I mean, for a team carrying the weight of the world's expectations, it was a wake-up call. And the way that reality check unfolded, both on the grass and later in the press room, it tells a much larger story.
Okay, let's unpack this. We are going to break down exactly how Carlo Ancelotti's tactical system just completely collapsed on the pitch.
Completely fell apart.
Yeah, and we're going to analyze the sheer individual brilliance of Vinicius Jr., plus this incredibly disciplined Moroccan squad.
They were so disciplined.
Right. And then we're going to pivot to this bizarre off-pitch language controversy from the match that actually opens up a massive window into the future of sports broadcasting.
Yeah, comparing it to some radical changes happening at the upcoming Milano Cortina Winter Olympics.
Exactly. It's a really compelling look at the friction between old systems failing, right? Whether that's a midfield formation or an outdated media protocol.
And the players and organizations trying to build something, more authentic.
So let's start with the disaster on the pitch. If you're sitting at home wondering how we get from this Times Square carnival to Brazil looking, frankly, atrocious for large stretches of that game.
Yeah, they really did.
It all came down to a tactical chokehold. I mean, Morocco put on an absolute masterclass in suffocation.
They truly did.
Yeah.
If you want to understand why Brazil looks so disjointed, you really have to look at the very center of the pitch.
The midfield.
Right, the midfield.
Yeah.
Morocco deployed this incredibly intense, high-pressing tight block.
Yeah.
And it just completely destroyed Ancelotti's double pivot.
Okay, so for you listening at home, let's visualize this. Think of a double pivot as the engine room of the team, usually two central defensive midfielders. In this case, Brazil was running Casemiro and Bruno Guimarães, and their primary job is to shield the defense and act as the launch pad for the attack,
Like
right?
the theory, yeah.
But Morocco essentially erased them from the game with this tight block. How exactly did they do that, physically?
Well, imagine the entire Moroccan team moving as a single shrinking net.
Okay.
They didn't just chase the ball, they suffocated the actual space around it. So the Moroccan midfield advanced so quickly and in such tight unison that every time Brazil's center backs looked up to build out from the back,
There's nowhere to go.
literally no short passing lane available. The net had already closed.
Wow, so the engine room is completely bypassed.
Exactly. This forced Brazil into these hurried, aimless, long passes that Morocco just easily swept up and brought right back down the field. I mean, they cut the team in half.
Which brings me to, my favorite way to visualize this breakdown. Watching Brazil's midfield in this game was like looking at a broken drive-through window.
Drive-through window.
Yeah. You have the kitchen in the back, right? That's the defense, working frantically to make the food.
Right.
And you have these hungry, world-class customers out front, the elite attackers, waiting for their meal. But the window between them is just jammed shut.
Jammed shut.
There is absolutely no way to hand the food across.
I love that. And, the player who suffered the most from that jammed window was Rafinha.
Oh, man.
He's out there on the right wing, supposedly this elite attacking threat for Barcelona. But because that center was totally blocked, He was starved.
Yeah, the sources highlight that he had to keep dropping deeper and deeper into his own half just to even touch the ball.
Right. He turned into a defensive runner rather than an attacking sprinter.
Meanwhile, Morocco is just humming along. You have this 18-year-old kid, Ayab Bouadi,
18.
I know, playing way beyond his years, completely anchoring the Moroccan midfield, and that dominance leads directly to the opening goal in the 21st minute.
Such a great goal.
Brahim Diaz drops this beautifully weighted through ball right over the Brazilian defense, and Ismail Saibari just lobs it perfectly over Alisson.
And we really have to look at Brazil's defense in that specific moment.
Yeah.
Ancelotti made this massive tactical gamble by playing Roger Ibanez out of position at right back.
Which did not work out.
Not at all. The sources show he got absolutely torched on that flank by Bilal El Khanous.
And add to that, Lucas Paqueta in the midfield was just a turnover machine.
Yeah, it got so bad that Ancelotti had to admit his mistake and pull both Ibanez and Casemiro at halftime.
Right. But, okay, I hear what you're saying about the system failing, but let me push back on this for a second.
Sure.
Because I'm looking at this roster, and we are talking about Brazil. We are talking about a squad packed with some of the most elite, technically gifted players on the entire planet.
Unquestionably.
If you're a fan watching this, you're probably screaming at the TV, like, just pass around them. Shouldn't a team with that much raw talent just be able to naturally play their way out of a press without needing a flawless tactical system?
Well, what's fascinating here is that to beat a press that tightly coordinated raw talent alone just isn't enough.
Really?
You need a specific type of mechanical glue to connect the lines. And multiple analytical sources point out that this game brutally exposed the Neymar void.
The Neymar void. Because he's out injured for this tournament.
Right.
But how does one guy fix a completely broken drive-through window?
So, objectively speaking, the tactical analysis argues that Neymar is the ultimate pressure release valve for this exact problem.
Okay.
His unique, specialized ability isn't just dribbling. It's his capacity to drop deep into that broken, chaotic midfield and receive the ball while under intense physical pressure from 2 or 3 defenders.
Just drawing them in.
Exactly. He has this uncanny ability to use his body, invite the contact, draw the foul, and importantly, not lose possession.
So he essentially creates a pause in the game.
Precisely. He creates a manufactured pause. He absorbs the physical pressure, retains the ball, and that split second allows the rest of the Brazilian team to move up the pitch and reset their shape.
Wow.
Without him, Brazil lacked that crucial valve, and the pressure just built until the system popped.
So if your system is completely broken and your main pressure release valve is sitting in the stands injured, what do?
You basically have to pray for individual moments of sheer magic.
And that brings us to the left flank and the highly anticipated micro battle between Vinicius Jr. and Morocco's star right back, Achraf Hakimi.
Oh, this was the marquee matchup of the entire group stage.
For sure.
Now, what's really interesting in the lead up to this tournament is that Ancelotti had actually been playing Vinny Jr. centrally as a striker for over 66% of his minutes.
Right, he was the focal point of the attack.
But for this specific match, Ancelotti shifted him back out to the left wing.
To specifically target Hakimi.
Yes, to pin him back. I mean, Hakimi is arguably Morocco's most dangerous attacking outlet from the back line.
Right.
So by putting a massive looming threat like Vinny Jr. on that exact same side, Hakimi is forced to stay home and defend. If Hakimi pushes too far up, Vinny exploits the empty space behind him. So it neutralizes a huge part of Morocco's offense.
It's a high-stakes game of tactical chicken.
Exactly.
But here is the stat line that absolutely blew my mind when I was reading through these sources. Vinny Jr. played 101 minutes of grueling football. Do you know how many successful dribbles he had against Hakimi?
0.
0. I mean, he attempted them, but Hakimi's discipline was incredible. The sources show Vinny won only 3 of his 15 duels.
Yeah.
He was fouled, he was physically battered, he was visibly frustrated, and yet SofaScore gives him an 8.0 rating and names him the player of the match.
Yep.
I am struggling to see how a winger, whose primary job is supposedly to beat his man, gets awarded player of the match when the stats say he had literally 0 successful dribbles against his primary defender. How does that math work?
It's a brilliant question, and it really challenges how we, as viewers, evaluate greatness on a football pitch.
Because it seems completely backwards.
Right. We tend to think of wingers solely in terms of flashy one-on-one take-ons and highlight reel moves. But Vini's value in this specific match was hidden in the deeper foundational metrics. First, The data shows he had 18 progressive carries.
Okay, explain what that means mechanically, because 18 sounds like a lot, but how does it impact the game?
So a progressive carry is logged when a player moves the ball significantly forward toward the opponent's goal. So even without beating Hakimi one-on-one, Vini Jr. was taking the ball and dragging it, and thereby dragging the entire Brazilian team 129 meters up the pitch over the course of the game.
Wow.
When the midfield couldn't pass the ball forward, Vini was the only reliable mechanism Brazil had to shift the geography of the game away from their own goal.
He's just putting the team on his back and physically walking them out of danger.
He held the tactical shape, he absorbed the heavy physical contact, and he drew the fouls that let his team finally take a breath. And most importantly, when it mattered most, he was deadly efficient.
Right.
In the 32nd minute, he gets his only shot of the entire game off a feed from Guimarães.
And the analytics on that single shot are just wild. The sources highlight that the chance had an expected goals, or XG, of just 0.096, meaning, statistically speaking, a player scores from that specific position on the pitch less than 10% of the time.
But Vini's placement of the ball was so elite, so perfectly struck into the corner of the net, that it bumped the expected goals on target, the XGOT, up to 0.58.
So he took a 9% theoretical scoring chance and turned it into a near 60% probability once it left his boot, which obviously became 100% reality.
Exactly. That is why he was player of the match. In a totally broken system, he did the grueling, unglamorous, painful work of carrying the ball up the pitch, and then he executed flawlessly when his one fraction of a chance arrived.
And thank goodness he did, because looking at the final Group C standings in our sources, every single action mattered.
Oh, absolutely.
Morocco finished top of the group. Brazil only placed second due to FIFA's fair play rules.
Which is crazy.
Right. They basically advanced because they had 2 more yellow cards than Morocco, meaning Morocco took the top seed on a disciplinary tiebreaker. It was that close.
The margins at this level are razor thin.
They really are.
Right.
Now, Vini Jr. and Hakimi had this incredibly fierce, respectful dialogue on the pitch through their play. But off the pitch, in the post-match press conference, they found themselves united by a totally different kind of struggle.
Yes.
A complete and bizarre communication breakdown.
The press conference controversy. Reading through the media reports, this incident really struck a nerve.
It's just baffling. So the match ends, the players sit down at the podium for the global press conference, and the tournament organizers had instituted this incredibly rigid protocol, absolutely no questions in Spanish.
Not at all.
And they completely refused to provide Spanish interpreters for the room.
Right. The sources detail a moment where a reporter from TV Azteca, a major Mexican broadcaster, started asking a question in Spanish, and a FIFA official literally cut them off mid-sentence, stating into the microphone, "No questions in Spanish."
Which is wild when you look at who is actually sitting at the table.
Exactly.
You have Hakimi, who was born and raised in Madrid. Spanish is essentially his mother tongue.
Right.
And you have Vini Jr., who has lived in Spain for years playing for Real Madrid and actually became a Spanish citizen in 2022.
And the reports noted that both players were visibly frustrated by this restriction. I mean, Hakimi even tried to step in and answer the reporter anyway, because he understood the question perfectly.
Yeah, of course he did.
He wanted to engage with the media in a language he was comfortable with.
Watching this unfold, it's like watching a deeply emotional, Oscar-winning foreign film, but the organizers force you to watch it dubbed by a single monotone voice actor instead of letting you hear the actor's real emotions.
You lose all the nuance.
You do. And the media pointed out the glaring irony here. This is a World Cup hosted in the Americas, including Mexico, totally ignoring the second most spoken language in the world, all while FIFA constantly preaches the gospel of globalization.
Yeah, the optics are undeniably terrible for an organization that prides itself on global inclusion.
But let me play devil's advocate here for a second, because we are talking about an event with thousands of journalists broadcasting to billions of people. Isn't standardizing the language to English just a necessary protocol for massive global logistics?
It's an argument, sure.
Right, like, doesn't forcing one language just make it easier to run the event efficiently and keep the press conferences moving?
Logistically, you could certainly make that argument. It is easier to manage. But the media and fan outrage we saw in the sources points to a much deeper issue. In modern sports, language isn't just about moving information from point A to point B. Language is identity.
Right. It's how these athletes express who they actually are.
Exactly. When you force a player to speak through the filter of a non-native language or deny their native press the ability to ask culturally nuanced questions, you are stripping away their authenticity.
Yeah.
The sources highlight this massive disconnect between the lived experiences of these global, multilingual athletes and the archaic, rigidly controlled rules of the tournament organizers. It brings up a crucial question about who actually controls the narrative in sports media and who the broadcast is really built for.
This World Cup controversy proves that traditional sports media acts as a gatekeeper, right?
Ah,
Filtering out the authentic reality of the athletes to fit a neat standardized box.
right.
But what happens when you completely rebuild the gate? Because we found this incredible source detailing how another massive upcoming sporting event is doing the exact opposite.
They really are.
They are intentionally tearing down these old media structures to be radically inclusive.
You're talking about the 2026 Milano Cortina Winter Olympics
Yes.
and the ambitious initiatives being run by the OBS, the Olympic Broadcasting Services.
The contrast between the World Cup organizers and the OBS is just staggering. The OBS isn't just trying to provide better translations. They are fundamentally changing who is behind the microphone and who is looking through the camera lens.
The metrics they are hitting are really unprecedented for a global sporting event. I mean, as of November 2025, the OBS has achieved full parity among their permanent staff.
Wow.
But where it gets really interesting is in the commentary booth. For the first time ever, we're going to see more women in the commentary booth than men. Over half the broadcast team will be female, 19 out of 35.
Which is a massive shift in whose voice is framing the action. But it's not just the voices we hear, it's the people actually building the technical broadcast. They have a program called Framing the Future that actively trains and places female camera operators in these high-pressure, live-action sporting events.
And they go even deeper into the technical side of the program called Engineering the Future.
Oh, this one is so cool.
It really is. They partnered with universities in Madrid to find female telecommunications engineering students, a field where female enrollment can be as low as 5%, mind you.
Right.
And they place them in highly technical, hands-on broadcast roles. We're talking AI, video tagging, cloud virtualization, network configuration.
They aren't just fetching coffee or running cables, they're building the digital infrastructure of the broadcast. But let's pause here. When we talk about something like AI video tagging, how does placing a female engineer in that role actually change the broadcast?
That is the most crucial part of this initiative. When you have female engineers doing the AI video tagging, they are literally the ones teaching the algorithm what a highlight looks like.
Okay.
If a male engineer unconsciously tags only raw physical aggression as a highlight, the algorithm learns that. But if a female engineer tags intricate teamwork, defensive positioning, and technique as highlights, the algorithm learns that.
Wow.
The entire montage of clips you watch on your couch fundamentally changes based on who taught the machine.
That is incredible. And this philosophy even extends to how the athletes are talked about live on air.
Yes, the portrayal guidelines.
Right. The OBS issued strict editorial portrayal guidelines. They actively instruct commentators not to frame female athletes' successes around male figures. So no more asking, like, how does she balance her gold medals with being a mom?
Right.
Or automatically attributing her flawless technique to her husband, who happens to be her coach.
They are actively trying to remove unconscious bias from the script itself. And this push for parity is even bleeding over into the actual sporting events.
Oh.
For example, at Milano Cortina, for the first time, all cross-country skiing events will feature equal race distances for men and women.
So what does this all mean if we look at the World Cup organizers who are stubbornly clinging to these rigid rules and closing doors to natural communication? How does this radically inclusive OBS strategy at the Winter Olympics actually change what you, the viewer, experience when you turn on your TV?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it all comes down to the fact that the lens shapes the story.
That's powerful. The lens shapes the story.
It's the fundamental truth of media. When you have a monolithic group of people operating the cameras, directing the shots, and calling the action, you get a monolithic story. Unconscious biases seep in. You know, what is considered an important highlight, what emotions are deemed worthy of focusing on, what questions get asked in the press room.
Right.
But when you have diverse camera operators, when you have female engineers designing the cloud systems and female commentators driving the narrative, You dismantle those biases. You don't just change who is working. You create a fundamentally different, more respectful, and far more authentic broadcast for the global audience. You capture the full human spectrum of the event.
To go back to my foreign film analogy, it's like finally taking off the bad dubbing and letting the audience hear the true emotion and see the original cut. You get the whole picture.
That's exactly it.
Wow. Okay, so to wrap up this deep dive, we started in the electric, expectant chaos of Times Square, fully expecting a Brazilian tactical masterclass.
And we definitely didn't get that.
No. Instead, we got a grinding one-to-one draw where Morocco's brilliant, suffocating midfield high press completely dismantled Brazil's system, exposing just how desperately they rely on Neymar's unique physical mechanics to be their pressure release valve.
We saw Vinicius Jr. do the grueling, unglamorous work of dragging his team forward 129 meters against a fiercely disciplined Achraf Hakimi, proving that greatness is sometimes about progressive carries and turning a 9% chance into a clinical goal rather than just flashy dribbles.
Yeah. And we watched tournament organizers stumble off the pitch, frustrating players and journalists with an archaic ban on the Spanish language in a World Cup hosted right here in the Americas.
Right.
And finally, we looked ahead to the Milano-Cortina Winter Olympics, where the OBS is proving that when you intentionally build a diverse broadcast team, from the commentators to the engineers teaching the AI, you build a better, truer story for the world.
It really highlights the growing friction between the old guard of sports media gatekeepers and the new wave trying to break through. And actually, there's one final detail from the OBS initiatives in our sources that we haven't touched on yet, and it leaves us with a really fascinating question about where all of this is heading.
Oh, what is it?
Alongside all their other programs, the OBS has an Olympic commentary training program.
Okay.
They are actively bringing 11 former Olympians and Paralympians behind the microphone to call the action, and they've hired 15 more Olympians as liaison officers.
Wait, they are getting the athletes themselves trained to run the broadcast booth.
Yes. So I want to leave you, the listener, with this thought. If current superstar players like Vinny Jr. and Hakimi continue to be frustrated, silenced, or restricted by rigid traditional media protocols like we saw at that World Cup press conference, and meanwhile, initiatives like the OBS are actively training a whole generation of athletes to take over the broadcast booths and the cameras. Are we approaching a future where athletes just bypass traditional media entirely? Will they become the exclusive broadcasters and directors of their own sports?
Now that is a tectonic shift. Imagine Vinny Jr. owning the camera, the microphone, and the entire narrative without anyone cutting him off.
It's coming.
Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Whether you're watching the tactical chess match on the pitch or paying attention to who is calling the shots from the broadcast booth, keep questioning the systems around you. We'll catch you next time.